Hey guys, I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about the Tamron 70-200 2.8, not the new one with the optical stabilization, the old one. And there's a lot of information online about using it for sports, but none of it that I've found is very hands-on, direct information. A lot of it is assumptions based on how it does focusing in other situations. For those of you who are considering buying that lens for sports, I would tell you don't. I went ahead and purchased the lens a couple of months ago. I was shooting with a Canon 1DS Mark I at the time, and my intentions were to use it to photograph high school sports, not any sport in particular, all sports. And I did use it for several weeks before making a switch to Nikon. Please don't kill me. I will tell you this, it's terrible. It did a really bad job shooting sports. The autofocus system is just not up to it. It's much too slow. Once when you're focusing at far distances, it's not too bad because it's not having to make dramatic changes. But it has a really hard time getting focus in the first place. It's not just the speed of tracking somebody. It's even when it thinks it's locked on, about 60% of the time it's not in focus. And this was not just in sports that I noticed this. This was everything that I shot, portraits, events, anything that I tested it on. About 60% of the shots were out of focus every single time. It was a tremendous waste of money, in my opinion, for, I don't know, if you're shooting for Canon, we'll just use this as an example. I paid $750 for the Tamron 70-200 2.8, the first model. For about $1,300, you could get a 70-200 2.8, a Canon 70-200 2.8, not the IS, but you don't need IS for sports. That's a common misconception. Sometimes it helps, but it rarely is useful in fast action sports. The version 1, the first model, I think it's completely worth the extra money. I think it's worth more than that to go with that option, and I wish I had done that because the Tamron just was bad. It didn't all of the work that I did for the several weeks that I used it was almost unusable and really kind of put me in a bind. I shoot a lot of high school sports. I work for a company that does high school events, the yearbook pictures, things like that, and they cover all the sporting events. And I'm the guy that goes out and shoots all the sports. And when I'm coming back to work and turning in like 10 pictures from a football game, because that's the only ones that accidentally ended up in focus, it makes me look bad. So I would really recommend that anybody who's considering getting the Tamron 70-200 2.8, the version 1, I have not used the new one, it could be better. But the older one, do not do it if you're doing it for sports. And I would also say don't do it for anything else either. The Sigma, I think, is better because it's not as sharp. Sigma is not as sharp, but I would trade that off for getting more shots in focus than not in focus with the Tamron. It doesn't matter if it's sharp. If it's out of focus, it's out of focus. And it was a solid 60% of the shots I took were completely out of focus, even on still subjects doing portraits. So since then I've sold all that. The camera, my lenses. I didn't have a whole lot of lenses. I'm always changing, selling, buying new gear. So I've switched over to Nikon. The reason I did this is because I got my hands on a D700. I used it for a football game, and I enjoyed the ergonomics of the camera a lot more. I liked having all the dials and the switches on the outside to have direct control over your autofocus points and stuff like that. And I don't know, it just felt better in my hands. I felt it was easier for me to use. So I went with a Nikon D300, which I will talk about in another video. But anyways, I just wanted to say that about the Tamron 70-200. In my experience, was a terrible lens for sports and not a very good lens in general. I think Sigma would probably be a better option because they have a hypersonic motor built into their lenses. It's a much better performing autofocus motor. They are not quite as sharp as the Tamron, but you're getting kind of picky at that point when it comes to that, and you got to really look to see the difference. If you can, get get a Nikon or a Canon 70-200, but of course it's a little bit out of everybody's price range, most people's price range. Anyways, I just wanted to say that real quick, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.